Hey there, hello, Sindre here. This video is for people who know how to use index match in Microsoft Excel, but don't know how to find anything other than the first instance. And the problem with index match is that it will only provide you the very first match in your dataset. But what happens if you want the second or third or the nth instance, the second, third match? Let's look at that. Let's figure it out. So over here in Excel, I have a very simplistic example. An example so simple that there are better ways to solve it rather than using index match, but that is by design for pedagogical reasons. So what we have here is a bunch of toddlers, a bunch of 2-year-olds who have been playing the dice roll game. They sit in a circle on the floor and they pass a die between themselves. And once they get the die, they roll the die and they need to say out loud what outcome they got, like 1 or 5 or 3. That's how it works. So if you look at the data set here, you will see that they don't perfectly manage to pass the die between them. So sometimes you are skipping a toddler. And this is real data with fake names, by the way. Just one interesting comment about this dataset is that apparently this set of toddlers are struggling with 4. So whenever they roll the 4, they just refuse to play and pass on the die. So that's why there is no 4 in the dataset. Without further ado, I already have put up the equation here, the function for how to find the second instance of Masha. So what is the second roll that or outcome that Masha got when rolling the die? Well, as you can see here, just looking at the data manually, the first outcome was 3, so the normal index match would just return that. But you want the second one, which is down here, which is 5. So actually, just to make sure we are on the same page, let's put up the basic index match. Now, if you just want to know exactly how to do it, here it is. You don't need to watch the rest of the video, but if you want to understand how it works, that could be beneficial because it might help you to easily remember how to do this. Otherwise, you kind of just have to memorize it, which is not a nice thing to memorize. So let's put up the basic index match just to do that. Index, we need a data set. And we need the vector of the data that we want to end up with, the output. And what is that in this case? Well, that is a dice roll. We want to know the dice roll, so I'm selecting the column here where the dice rolls are stored. Now what index is doing is to return the ith observation in this data set. So if I write here, for me it's going to be semicolon since I'm on a Norwegian computer, but for most it will be comma as the delimiter. It could be something else depending on where you are in the world. But if I write in 1 here, it will return the first observation in the dataset, which is 2 in this case. So that's how it works. What if I want the second row? Well, that's going to be in this case 3. And the fourth one, the third one is also going to be 3. So in index match, in the second input of the index function, we put in match. And match has 3 inputs. What are we searching for and where are we searching? We are searching for the name Masha, and that is stored in the column over here. And then the third parameter is if we want an exact match or an approximate match. Now, since we're dealing with strings here, names, it doesn't matter what you choose. But if you're dealing with numeric variables, then it might do rounding. So if you're searching for decimal numbers, you might round to the nearest integer. But most of the time, pretty much always, I want an exact match. So I'm going to specify here the third parameter as 0, which is just short for exact match. I can't really think of any reasons for why you want to have not an exact match. But it is what it is. And there we go. So for Masha, the dice roll is 3. But as I said in the beginning here, the problem with the index match function is that it always returns the first match. So what it does, it starts at the top of here and is asked, is this name equal to what I'm searching for, Masha? No. If not, it moves 1 down. Is this name equal to Masha? No, it's not. It moves 1 down. And here, finally, it'll say, oi, we found Masha. And what is the corresponding value? Well, that is 3. So we'll always only end up with the very first instance. But hey, in this case, I want to know the second instance, or maybe the third, or maybe the fourth. So let's look at that. Basically, the structure is going to be the same. We're going to have index, but rather than using match, we are going to use something slightly different. And let's take a look at that. I'll delete this. Essentially, what we need to know is to be able to report or find the index number, or at which row in the data set is this second instance. And to do that, we first need to know in which rows is all the data stored in. And we can start by using something called the row function. So row, and the input is going to be basically just where we have stored the data over here. And this will return the row numbers for every single observation in this range. So if we do that, let me zoom out a little bit, it will be 3, 4, 5 all the way to 17. That seems to be the case there, right? Our first observation is in row number 3, and we have row number 4 all the way to row number 17. But the index function doesn't care about the absolute row reference. It cares about within the data set that you are providing. So it shouldn't start at 3, it should always by definition start by 1. So how can I get around that? Well, the solution is to subtract the lowest number from this function, the output of this function. So let us do that. So I'm going to type in here row minus the minimum value of row, and the input is going to be exactly the same thing. So now it will go from 0 all the way to 14. As you can see here, we have 15 different observations. Now notice here that it starts at 0. That is a problem for this particular function. Whether or not you want your index to start at 0 or 1, it kind of varies a bit from programming language to programming language. And well, in most cases it starts at 0, but in Excel it actually varies from function to function. So in some functions you start at 0, and sometimes you start at 1. And in index match, or index, you start at 1. So what I need to do is to add back 1. And let's see. There we go. Let's see, did I do that wrong? Let's see, minus 1. Oh, I was saying not minus 1, plus 1. I'm thinking completely wrong here. Sorry about that. Can we edit that out? So it goes from 1 to 15. So that was a lot of work to just do something we can use outright C here. Now we know that the possible values or the possible inputs for the second parameter of the index function can be 1 all the way to 15. Next we're going to do here is to wrap this inside of an if function, because I only want to know the row numbers that corresponds to cases where we have the name Marsha. That is pretty easy to do. We just put an if function around this whole expression that we have made so far. So if this range is equal to, I can hard code it, or I can just reference the cell over here. If it's equal to Marsha, then the expression we already made. Otherwise, nothing. We're not going to have any alternative or the else output. And now something interesting happens here. Every single time that we have a row where the name is not Marsha, we just get false. So only in the cases here when we have the correct name do we get the index or the row number. So the index function wants to then only know 3 or 12. And I feel like I'm explaining this terribly. So if I want the first instance, I would have to put the second parameter to be equal to 3. And if I want the second instance, I would have to put the second parameter of index to be equal to 12, like that. So is there a way to do this, more automatically? Yes, there is. We can use the small function. The small function, you specify a range of numeric values, and then the second parameter tells you if you want the smallest, the second smallest, the third smallest, or the fourth smallest, and so on and so forth. So let's do that. We wrap all of this inside of small. So small, then the whole expression is the first input, and then the second will be equal to 1 if I want the first instance, or the smallest number, or 2 if I want the second smaller. So let's go for 1 first and see what happens. Yeah, it gives us 3, which is where the first instance of Masha is. And what happens if we type in 2 here, the second smallest? Well, then it says 12. So row number 12 within the data set. So the only thing you have to do at the end here is to put all of this as the second parameter, input parameter of the index function. So I'm going to write in here, index. We want the roll, dice roll. Which row do you want? So the whole expression we made so far will automatically figure that one out for us. And then a parentheses at the end, and they're accidentally deleted. Let's see. You enter too few arguments for this function. Let's see. I think I've done something wrong here. And indeed we have over here. We need the delimiter. Let's see if that works. And it does. So the second instance of Masha has a value of 5. Pretty nice. That's how you do it. So let's write this, just in one go and see how that turns out. Let's see. Index. What do we want? We want to know the dice roll. So I'm going to start with that. And then the delimiter. For me, that is semicolon. Which row do I want? Well, I don't know that, and that's a bit difficult and complicated, so we need to nest many functions together. So I'm going to start with small, and then I'm going to use the if condition. So if name, over here, name range, is equal to a particular name stored in the cell over here. What do I want to do then? Then I want to figure out the row of this. And it doesn't matter if I'm taking the name column or the dice roll column. I could actually just do both of them. It wouldn't matter. Row. That will give us the absolute row reference. I don't want that. So I need to subtract the minimum value of the same thing. Like that. Perfect. And then I want to add back 1 because I want to start at 1 rather than 0. And let's see, that should be it. And then I need to specify which instance they want. The first, the second, the third, or something else. And I've stored it over here. I want the nth instance, in this case number 2. And then we just end up with the parentheses. Let's see, you have entered too few arguments for this function. Let's see, what did I do wrong? It should be over there. There we go. We forgot end parenthesis. Very good. That's how we do it. Index match, when you want the second or third instance or even higher, and there is actually no match at all in this whole story. So that's false advertising. Good luck with your spreadsheet.